Oh, maybe I should turn off my notifications. Hi. Um, Not exactly. I think it's a pressure difference with atmosphere when it comes to helium. But it's interesting to think about the idea of stuff bouncing around inside of a balloon, and that is what makes it lift up. Because total pressure of everything else, and then it's moving around so it actually floats. And density. I think it's the density that makes helium work. I mean, it's the same difference as if you have air in a balloon and you have the balloon in water. But helium in the balloon, you know what? I had a thought that maybe it was the motion of the helium inside of the balloon that made it so that it would cause it to move. It was the atmosphere that was making the balloon move. Right. So this basically wasn't anything. Do I have any actual... Look, I came into this thinking that, listen, some people talked about an engine, that the way that you would bounce the energy in the engine would provide some thrust, some push. All those particles bouncing around, right, would give a little kick in one direction, and the thruster was designed in such a way that there would be less kick backwards in the opposite direction. Hate having hairs in my mouth. Then why do you have so much hair? Shush. Now the principle of being able to send a bunch of stuff internally and like smash in one direction, right? Then you can have equal and opposite reaction, but then the other, when it bounces the other way, it'll have less energy. So it'll cancel out only some of the energy, and what is left over is the accumulative possible thrust. But here's the thing. What happened was the energy that they were shooting at the inside of it, was it microwave? I don't know. It more comes down to the design of the thruster. because if some of the pressure, if some of the push um, comes forward, like if all of the push goes upwards, but if some of the push gets deflected, so it doesn't have a downward property, but it only has a sideways property, and if that sideways property is balanced, then you should be able, like the guy tried to reflect um, the power into a cone. It would bounce up. As it goes back down, it would hit the cone and it would deflect in all directions and cause sideways push. But the thing about it is that there's another way of doing it. You can, on the way down, like on the way down, the lasers can hit like water or something, a substance that changes their kinetic energy. Or instead of hitting the actual structure itself, just hit a panel that is levitating. Just hit a suspended panel, right? All the energy applied to that panel then can be like, if it's suspended by springs, will not push as much on the whole ship, you know. So like you're pushing, well, on one side, when you're shooting the lasers up, or the microwaves or whatever, right? Everything is all of that force is imparted into the ship. And when it goes back down, and you can say equal opposite reaction, but here's the thing. If you have the laser or whatever it is suspended, then that equal opposite reaction on the other side, because it's suspended by a spring, it will impart a lot less force towards the ship. So that means you should be able to have all of the force applied only in one direction. But I think the reason why his design didn't work is he was just using reflective surfaces. And the difference between hitting the top wall and the bottom reflector, which sends it to the side, is it's still hitting it at the angle of attack straight down once it gets there. If you have the reflectors not be attached directly to the ship, then the design works. And there is no flaw in it. You can just see that all of the motion is put into this, and it's like, because it's like either springs or something else, that it takes that energy and it makes it a lot less of a push towards the ship. So you do have a total amount of force. It should only push the ship forward. And unfortunately, some scientists didn't help this guy, and his entire startup was like canceled. But I'm here. I'm here for you, dude. All you gotta do is diffuse it on the bottom side, right? Yeah, just put your lasers so that when they bounce back, if you're using lasers, if you're using EM pulses, or if you're using, you know, now why did I talk about helium in the first bit? With helium, my thought was, I had, look, I had two ideas when I started this process of making the video. The first idea was about, wait, helium in a balloon lifts. We want anti-gravity, but we have helium. We know how it lifts when everything else in the atmosphere doesn't. So we have that, although it's not actual anti-gravity. Quote unquote actual anti-gravity. Right? It's gravity resistant, or gravity, like it literally, it's not that the helium itself, like I said, it's not like the helium itself is pushing up. It's that everything else is pushing down more than it is pushing up. It is the lighter element. It's the lighter material, and all the heavy stuff sinks to the bottom. That's just how it works. But the reason I thought about that was because I thought about the helium bouncing around inside the balloon, causing thrust, which was the wrong idea, but it led me to think of this this weird thruster. And I haven't seen this thruster in a while. Microwave thruster. Not seeing what the fuck I was looking for. I'm seeing a lot of other bullshit. There's nothing to do. Oh, it's this guy. This guy. This is the one. This dude made this thruster, and it was a complete fail. The impossible drive. It's not impossible. This thing is, this is the stupid part of NASA and everyone who is a scientist who has looked at this and they don't fucking get it. This works. This thruster actually works. It's not impossible. The only thing is you have to have a diffuser on the one side, and he didn't have a diffuser on the one side. One tiny little tweak. That's all this guy needed, and he could have had it. The EM drive? Yeah, the EM drive works, unfortunately. Fuck everyone else in the scientific community, NASA, and everyone. This drive works. I don't know if you are just tuning out because I said fuck NASA, but I know that they put a lot of effort into thinking about things. But let me just tell you this. The fact that they didn't try to diffuse the lasers or whatever EM pulse on the other side with a detached, like with a spring or something, thing, and then like the way it would work, okay, you get these pulses, they go up one side, and when it goes down the other side, it's supposed to have the force be distributed to the sides of the ship instead of back down. Therefore, you would only have a force that is pushing the ship forward, upward, and it doesn't work because of his design being bad. And I'm sorry for calling his design bad, but at the same time, his design is not impossible. It is just needing a tiny tweak. It pisses me off that people who have good ideas, like this fucking drive doesn't work. This does not work. Unfortunately, the Cubier drive doesn't work. Dude, this freaking, that thing doesn't work. Time travel. This equals time travel. What the hell is wrong with you people? No, it doesn't. What the fuck is this? Scientists are building a real Star Trek impulse engine. What the fuck is that about? It says it's live, but it's also 14 minutes long, so it's not live. Oh, they are live, but this is a video. I get it. Okay. Because it's 2 years ago. This doesn't work. It's also not time travel. Right? The whole idea... Okay, look. Listen. You might think that causality is broken when you go faster than the speed of light, but let me tell you something. Light takes a long time to get anywhere. And all you have to do is say that you would be moving faster than the transmission of light. We can already do that in the liquid. So why are we so butthurt about it when it's a full speed? I'm just saying. This doesn't work. This whole thing, fail. No, will not work, does not do its thing. It's not the design that... They don't know how to make it work. Let me put it that way. They don't know how to make it work. I do. I know how to make it work. But the problem is, space-time doesn't fold. So, space-time doesn't bend like that. It's not that you can just... You literally need to have... You need to affect the objects that are in space-time, not space-time itself. You can't affect space-time itself. The planet doesn't affect space-time at all. It affects the objects in space-time. There's a huge difference. And they are simplifying it and they are misquoting it, saying space-time bends. It doesn't. Space-time does not bend around the planet. There is no time dilation also due to the bending of space-time, so that when you're near a planet, like, time is going to be slightly different the further away you are from the planet and how fast you're going and whatever else. That's a whole other thing. I talk about it in other videos. It's not real, unfortunately. And what's the application? The application is satellites and their ability to have working clocks, because they have atomic clocks and they don't work in space because the satellite is moving at a constantly changing velocity. So the difference between the pulses of light heading from the emitter to the beryllium atom, which has a specific frequency that the atomic clock is able to count. They're very good at counting, but what they don't understand is that if you change your velocity at any amount, just any amount, it changes the distance. It has the potential to change the distance between the emitter on one side, the atom, and the emitter again. If you have your entire body moving through space at a regular rate, your clock will work perfectly. It's fine. Change your velocity at all, even the tiniest amount, and it changes the distance the light has to travel. You can try to make it so that it's a micron of distance, but it doesn't matter because the distance is still changing. And that's not because the shape of the object is changing. It's because as you're moving through space, the target is moving as well. And so the light bounces off the target that is no longer like right underneath it. It is moved 5 meters away if you're moving 5 meters a second. Imagine that. And so what is 5 meters to the speed of light? It's nothing. But 5 meters is enough to make it so that time is now going to read differently for that clock, because it's not a direct distance that is like right underneath it. It is now 5 meters away. And if you're moving faster, if you're moving like 10,000 meters per second or something, like you're doing out in space in a satellite dish, you gotta realize that is a significant fraction of the speed of light. And so the effects of you changing how fast you're going, but by changing if you're going like 10,000 to 9,000 meters per second, that is enough to change 1,000 meters per second. And every time you make one of those adjustments, which by the way, satellites are constantly slowing down, this is something that we can know. It's something that a computer can track. It's something that we can have the ability to compensate for, and we don't compensate for it because we're stupid. NASA is stupid. They simply have a atomic clock on the ground that does nothing too crazy. It moves a really specific on the ground, okay, you're moving at a steady pace. Okay? And your motion versus everything else, very steady, very consistent, very predictable. Okay? Your clock is always going to say the same thing because you're fine. But up in a satellite dish, you're not on a steady platform moving at a regular speed. You are constantly decelerating. You're constantly changing where you're moving, and that changes everything about where the light is able to travel to. That makes sense to literally everyone who has a brain, but not to NASA. They automatically revert to its time dilation. And this is why I puke on NASA, because I'm tired of them saying time dilation when that's not what's happening. They're great. You can do all sorts of things as NASA and get away with it without being correct for so many years and so many decades. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you can get a lot of things right and you can make a lot of compensation for all the things you're getting wrong. But let me tell you something. Why don't you just do the thing and calculate the distance and speed of your satellite and stop saying time dilation ever. Ever. Just never say it again. Do not ever say time dilation. In your vernacular, take it out. Remove it. It doesn't happen. You go to a black hole and you expect time dilation to happen there. It won't. You go to a super speed and expect time dilation to happen there. It won't. This is the problem. Real scientists who actually do the measurements will know the effects on the object. The physical effects are different than actual time dilation. True time dilation, okay, you can't just make in a centrifuge. Unlike what the Time Machine original movie, where they just spun something and expected time to move differently, we have been able to make centrifuges. Nothing is traveling through time yet. So, like, and okay, granted, the amount of speed you would have to get in a centrifuge in order to affect time according to their physics is like insane. You have to go like 50,000 revolutions per second or something. And then you would start to feel minutes pass faster. This is the type of bullshit that we're hearing. It's not time dilation. Track the distances. Literally, light has a very specific speed, okay? And if you were to change, if you were to change the velocity of this in a scaled down version, okay? If you were to change the velocity of let's say a ball that you're throwing, and you change the motion of the target, like it would barely move at all, but it moves enough that also when the light is coming back, you think it's going to compensate for it? The two-way speed of light dilemma? No, I actually. No, actually. And that's where you're completely forgetting that when you're changing velocity consistently, right? And then you suddenly do whatever else, the light can be going backwards and you're moving different speeds because you suddenly started to speed up. And for that instant, that microscopic little moment in time, there's a discrepancy between the moving down speed and the moving up speed. Okay? And this is easily noticeable. This is easily noticeable on a macroscopic scale. You can see it. So when you get to this thing and you see time dilation with satellites, and I know I'm tangenting. I get it. Okay? But you have to understand. I need to talk about this. Because I need people to listen and understand. But the problem is, in order to get them to understand, what I really want to do is make an animation or do something that actually shows the effects of a laser that is like consistently shining at something, and then you have that laser, the object move a little bit, and that tiny movement is enough to make it so that the bounce back changes how the atomic clock. You realize when you're dealing with atomic clocks, you're dealing with like billions of numbers per second. That's how the atomic clock works. It's so fast and accurate that the problem is if you're off by even the tiniest hair, the tiniest nanoscopic, or the tiniest like bit, and all it takes is that to happen, and the number of times it happens creates those discrepancies with the clock. If you want to rule out time dilation, what you really want to do, sit there out in space, constant speed, never slow down, never allow yourself to change your velocity. Go out in space and then find out if anything is different. Find out if the velocities are actually being consistent, and then that makes it so that the time actually doesn't dilate at all because you're not moving at a different velocity. You're not, but the thing is, you're also moving in an orbit, an arc. The shape of this ball is so huge because it's literally bigger than the Earth is round. I mean, you're going on an orbit that's around the planet, right? Even if you're moving at a consistent rate, right? It's basically the same. Like if you geosynchronous, and you have it consistently always there relative to the Earth and stuff like that, is there any time dilation whatsoever? And then you would have to understand it's not time dilation you're experiencing. That would be indisputable proof that it's not time dilation you're experiencing. The light has different distances to travel. That's all there is. And the problem is, without like a demonstration of an animation or something, no one's going to clue in on this. No one's going to listen. No one's going to care. Unless you can imagine it in your head, you're not going to care. And that's the thing. It's like, this is why the animated YouTubers and the ones thinking about all these things, and they have animations, because visually stuff fits in your brain more. But if a proper NASA scientist or a rocket scientist would look at my videos and be like, no, it's not time dilation, it's this, they could clue in and do a couple tests and be like, you know what? That freaking weirdo from Canada is right. With the long hair and the beard? No, not Kyle Hill. I'm talking about this other guy. He doesn't have blonde hair. His is brown. And he wears this constant green shirt. It's actually blue. But anyhow, yeah. Holy crap, it's never been time dilation. So how are we going to ever travel through time and have the beautiful ability of moving forward or backward in time? We're not. That's the other thing. It will never happen that way. Um, and this same idea goes back to Superman and the reason why he flies around the planet really fast, and time is changed for him. You know he's going faster than the speed of light. He goes so fast, he's a streak of light, but he's going faster than light. That's the physics that they're running by, and the problem is the physics is wrong. Sad for Superman, because he can't save Lois, but um, that's reality, and you got to get over it. I'm sorry. We're no longer in the 80s and 90s where in the 50s or whatever, where we can think about these things romantically and it's a lovely idea, and we cannot take it as doctrine anymore. Oh wait, we can? We're still in the age of imagination, where everything can just be whatever you want, hoping that it works. Please grow up. The answer is, what does this actually change when it comes to the satellites? Well, they could have onboard computers that will compensate for their motions in space if they're on this planet or Mars or any other planet. They can know how to compensate and have correct time themselves. They don't need an update from us if you know how to compensate for the motions of your device, going through space, going in your orbit, whatever you're doing. Okay? Keep track of those slowdowns. And your satellites will operate a lot better. And eventually this will be useful. Whatever. I don't care if I'm talking to people 100 years ago about a stupid thing that we're still messing up today. 100 years from now. Yeah, he got it right, so it doesn't matter. The problem is they don't. Whatever. But getting back to the real issue here, which was this guy's ship. This works, okay? It's not impossible. You just have to have it reflect on the backswing off of something that's not directly hooked up to the rest of the ship. That way the reverse effect of the thrust will not make you know, an opposite canceling out effect. Ions that move. That's cool.